Welcome to the adventures of Joni and Gordon. And this is episode 5, People Everywhere in Glacier National Park, a part of the North Dakota and Canadian National Parks epic road trip. Glacier National Park is a stunning U.S. national park in the state of Montana. Join us as we try to visit the west side of Glacier National Park. In the last episode, we visited the north unit of Theodore Roosevelt National Park. In this episode, we try to visit Glacier National Park. We left the north unit extremely early in the morning and headed to Glacier National Park. We thought we would stay at the Walmart in Havre, Montana, but kept driving the 640 miles to Glacier because it was just way too early to stop. We drove on Highway 2, which is also called the High Line, across South Dakota and Montana. It is a pretty desolate drive until you're almost to Glacier National Park, and then you see these absolutely gorgeous mountains come into view. We went straight into the park to try to get a first-come, first-served campsite. We were able to grab a first-come, first-served campsite at the Apgar campground in the park. Keep in mind, we were there very early in the season on May 20th, and there were only 2 campgrounds open at this time. Apgar Campground, which is on the west side, and St. Mary's Campground, which is on the east side of the park. We were very lucky to get a spot. Luckily, we were able to get a really nice, pretty level pull-through campsite. The campground was fairly full, so we were very fortunate to get a site. The campground has 194 campsites broken into 4 loops, A through D. Loops A, B, and C can accommodate RVs, and Loop D is for tents. All loops have potable water and flush toilets, and only Loop A has showers. As I've said in previous videos, we love seeing wildlife when we are camping. The first night we were in the campground, a deer walked through. She seemed pretty calm and used to all the people around in her domain. We woke up early the next day and drove around checking out the area. We came upon Lake McDonald, where we met 2 Montana locals. We chatted for quite a long time while taking in the beautiful views and snapping photos and videos. We first visited Glacier National Park 11 years ago. The area has changed dramatically. It has become a lot more commercial, losing a lot of its rustic feel. We were pretty shocked to see a go-kart mini golf park, as well as all the shops and restaurants in West Glacier. Not that we were against progress, we just have different memories. We went back to Lake McDonald in the afternoon, thinking it would be a nice, peaceful place to set up our chairs and read after our experience in the morning. We were one of only 2 groups of people when we arrived, but before we left, a tour bus came, and they pulled up and a bunch of people piled out and joined us. So, we decided to leave and take a drive to a hike that was recommended by a hiking guide that we met earlier in the day. We drove to the hiking spot, and it was really, really crowded with no parking spaces, even though they had several parking lots there. We didn't need a vehicle reservation because we were there before the high season started. After high season, the park has implemented vehicle reservations in the summer. From 6 a.m. to 3 p.m., registration is required for 4 areas of the park: going to the Sun Road, the North Fork, to Medicine, and Many Glacier. In addition to a vehicle reservation, a park pass is required to enter the park. A vehicle reservation is not a park pass, and a park pass does not serve as a vehicle reservation. So you really need to go to the website to figure out what you need to do to get into the park for the time that you are going to be there. After all the crowds and everything, we decided to head into Hungry Horse, Montana for some supplies and saw a sign for Hungry Horse Reservoir. That looks interesting. We got our supplies from the store, and while we were in the parking lot, we looked up Hungry Horse Dam on the internet. We looked at each other and said, let's go there. We drove up to the dam and the visitor center, and while I took some videos and some photos, Gordon went into the visitor center and talked to a ranger there and got some really good insight as some more desolate places in the area to go to. Hungry Horse Dam is a large concrete arch dam located in Flathead County with beautiful mountain, lake, and river views. Definitely worth stopping at. When we travel, Gordon and I always ask people, if you had a camper van like this, where would you go in the area for some great views and some good camping? We had 4 of these encounters giving us advice in this area. A guy that we met in Theodore Roosevelt National Park in the North Unit, we called Montana Matt, gave us some great advice before we even started out. A ranger at the Hungry Horse Dam from Libby, Montana, she gave us some great advice. And Dale, a retired forest ranger also from Libby, Montana. And then finally, Shanda, a nurse who led hikes around Glacier National Park, who was also from Kalispell, Montana, and she gave us some great advice about the area. All of these people recommended the northwest side of Montana, as it is just as beautiful and much more desolate. We found that the local people to be exceptionally friendly and helpful in this area. As we bop around the country, we find some really cool places this way, and we find that locals usually want to give advice about their area. Glacier National Park has some beautiful scenery, and we highly recommend going there, but be prepared for some crowds. Thanks for watching Episode 5, People Everywhere in Glacier National Park. Please like and subscribe. Our next episode, we will be visiting northwestern Montana, thanks to the advice of some very knowledgeable locals. If you haven't watched our other video about Theodore Roosevelt National Park North Unit, here is a link.